Hello and welcome to The Signal, WorkplaceNL's health and safety podcast. WorkplaceNL is the Workers' Compensation Board in Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada. The focus is to promote safe and healthy workplaces, provide return-to-work programs, and offer compensation to injured workers and their dependents. This series of podcasts will provide you with the latest information on how workplaces can protect the health and safety of workers. Please enjoy the show.
Welcome everybody. My name is Cheryl Osborne and I'm a health and safety advisor here at WorkplaceNL in prevention services. My work focuses on ergonomics and musculoskeletal injury prevention. Today I welcome Mona Frey. Mona graduated with a Bachelor of Kinesiology from MUN in 2018. In the fall of 2018, she then started her PhD, which she hopes to finish early next year. Her research interest is low back pain. Specifically, she investigates how low back pain interacts with movement and function to ultimately guide prevention and treatment strategies. Additionally, she is interested in the effects of spine flexion, which occurs in prolonged sitting, on low back pain. She is a member of the National Student Council of the Association of Canadian Ergonomists, and since 2014, she has been working as an ergonomist, mostly focusing on office ergonomics, setting up workstations. Welcome to the episode, Mona.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
The focus of this podcast will all be on things that you can do as a worker to achieve a more ergonomically friendly setup and feel more comfortable and productive at work. As a result, a reduced risk of developing a musculoskeletal injury, or MSI. So let's jump right in. These days, workers are using mobile devices a lot, such as laptops, for example, and many workers are using more than one workstation these days, transporting their equipment from one place to another. Workers tend to be setting up their own stations and making their own adjustments, and so it's very important that they have the know-how to make the right adjustments. They need to understand what the risk factors for MSI are, particularly in the work that they do and with the equipment that they're using, so computers and mobile devices in this case. And they need to understand things that they have control over to help manage risk. So WorkplaceNL has created a handy checklist that a worker can use to assess their own setup, which can also help them troubleshoot if they are experiencing discomfort or any other signs of MSI. And I'm going to get to that shortly, but first, Mona, let's just start off talking about laptops. More workers work remotely now than ever before, and laptops have certainly made that possible. They're used professionally, they're used in our personal lives, and they're wonderful devices. They give us lots of great value, and there's a lot of benefits from them, but they also bring ergonomic challenges. The way we use laptops can impact our health. So Mona, could you talk about some of the main concerns with laptop use?
Yes, for sure. Laptops are super convenient to carry around. You always have your laptop accessible, but it's not really designed to work on it for longer periods of time. So if you're going to a conference or you're going to a class, it's super easy to take the laptop with you. And if you're only working on it for an hour, maybe two, a laptop might be suitable. If you're working on it for longer periods of time, several hours at a time or throughout the day, you do want to make sure that you're still setting it up ergonomically well, which means when you're working on any workstation, your monitor should be about eye level so that you're not constantly looking down. And you really want to invest in an external keyboard and mouse so that you're not reaching while using your laptop. Because the screen and the keyboard are put together in the laptop, usually what tends to happen is that we push out the keyboard, so we're reaching forward, which forces us to start slouching, and then on top of that we're looking down, which adds to the slouching again as well. By simply adding in an external mouse and keyboard, you can still keep the keyboard close to you, and then you can raise up the laptop or get an external monitor as well. To raise up your laptop, you can use anything that you can find. You can use a monitor lift or laptop lift, but you can even use simpler options such as a couple of books, packs of papers, or boxes. When I went to a conference, I even used towels before to raise my laptop.
Great. I love the fact that you gave so many examples of ways that you can improvise and not necessarily have to purchase a laptop stand, but even just use a book. Great. So what are some of the common MSIs related to laptop use?
We often add a lot of strain to our neck, shoulders, and back because we tend to slouch while using a laptop. So when we're slouching, we're extending the ligaments and the muscles, and we're putting them to more use than normally, which causes a lot of strain and at the end discomfort in those areas, and eventually also increases the risk of MSIs.
And I can back that up from a claims perspective and statistics analysis that neck, shoulders, and back are definitely the more prominent parts of the body that we see injuries to from office work, in-office workers, and due to computer use.
Yes.
Yeah. So what recommendations do you have then to reduce the risk to people who use these devices?
The bare minimum when you're using a laptop is to have an external keyboard and mouse so that you can keep that in close. If you have your keyboard and mouse in close, you're automatically sitting more upright, and then propping up your laptop or having an external monitor at eye height will also help you sit in a more natural posture.
All right, so you mentioned about using laptops. One of the problems of using laptops is prolonged sitting. It's sitting for too long periods of time and using those machines. So let's just talk a little bit about sitting. There's been a lot of research around the health effects of an overly sedentary lifestyle, and some occupations certainly can require workers to sit for quite a bit of time, or workers are just not engaging in very much physical activity in their jobs. So there's little movement for several hours a day. And that's, day in, day out for some people. That's really reality, right? So could you summarize some of the research findings and the potential ill health effects to workers who are in situations like that?
Yes, so prolonged sitting really creates a whole bunch of problems for our health. So on one hand, we have the increased risk of MSIs that is often associated with discomfort or pain in our body, but it also increases the risk of a number of chronic conditions that we might not necessarily directly associate with prolonged sitting. It increases our hypertension, our blood pressure, and can affect a whole bunch of chronic conditions such as diabetes, or it even has been shown that it increases our mortality. So it speeds up or reduces our life expectancy.
Wow, that's pretty impactful stuff for sure. From what I understand, there's a couple of factors, right, with sitting. So there's the piece of we're just sitting too much in the run of a day in, day out. It's too much sitting time. But then there's been some talk about uninterrupted sitting time and there being some health impacts with that. So sitting 2 hours straight in between your breaks, for example, and possibly there being some issues with that. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what the research is indicating?
Yes, so to say it simply, at the end, our body isn't designed to sit for 8 hours a day, which means we really have to be intentful about being physically active. One study has shown that when people sit for 8 hours a day, this can be made up in terms of the mortality risk by exercising for 60 minutes in the evening at a moderate level intensity. So that would be things like going for a run, playing a sport, basketball, soccer. But a lot of times we don't do that. So there's ways to reducing the accumulation of the negative effects of sitting, such as including micro breaks throughout the day. And any physical activity that we can include in our workday at the end has a positive effect on our health. We recommend that you get up at least once an hour, while the research is still working on the optimal guidelines on when you should stand up. A lot of times when we're working on the hour. So if there's a meeting, it's usually scheduled on the hour. It's easier to break up our work schedule into our bouts. So if you can get up once an hour during that period of time, and it only has to be a couple minutes to get out of that static posture, it can have a great impact on your health.
Okay, good to know. And I think that can be fairly doable for in many workplaces and for many workers. We're not talking about a great period of time on the hour there. What are some movement strategies that you would suggest to workers to implement in the workplace, or even for employers to consider that they start to roll out in the workplace to help workers move more?
I mean, there's a whole range of strategies. If I'm talking to an individual, I would usually show them some options that they can use to remind themselves to get up. At least at the end, it is a habit that we have to start getting used to. So setting a reminder on your phone, or getting a little kitchen timer to set it in an hour interval are very helpful tools. Some people like to be visual and even get an hourglass and turn it around. At the end, it is really what works for you. There's also apps, or a lot of people have smartwatches that can also automatically remind you on the hour. Again, if you have a very busy schedule where you have a bunch of meetings back to back, just taking the time of standing up between 2 1-hour meetings, again, can make a big impact.
Okay, yeah, great tips. And your research interest is around low back pain. So what are you seeing in regards to the relationship between sitting and low back pain?
So we've done a few studies on prolonged sitting and back pain. At the end, what we found is that even people who don't have a clinical history of back pain still develop discomfort in the lower back, even within just 1 hour of sitting. So if you're thinking about an hour, we're saying get up at least once an hour to kind of reset that clock of your discomfort. When you're getting up, you're moving your body, you're getting out of that static posture, which is really what is causing a lot of the discomfort, because your body wants to move.
So to help compact the effects of too much sitting, we are seeing now employers are starting to implement sit-stand workstations. They're becoming quite common out in workplaces, and I wanted to know what your thoughts are on sit-stand workstations. Do you have any opinions on them, or are they great?
Yes, for sure. I think sit-stand stations are a great investment for any employee. Personally, if you're an employer and you're purchasing a new desk, ideally it would be a height adjustable desk. It doesn't only mean that the person can alternate between sitting and standing postures, but it also means that the employee can adjust the desk to the height that they need it at when they're sitting, which often is a problem with a standard desk, because we have people sitting at the same height desk who are 6 foot and 5 foot, right? So beyond the extra option of sitting and standing, it can also avoid that problem.
Yeah, and I actually, just to jump in there as well, I see them so beneficial in situations now where many workplaces are turning to hybrid models, and office space is becoming less and less because more workers are working from home. So we're seeing situations now where workers, when they do come into the office, it's sort of like pop-up workstations, so they're not always going to the same workstation each time or each day. So having a height adjustable station would certainly accommodate everybody, as opposed to only certain people can go to this workstation because of the height of the fixed desk.
Yes. An alternative, if you already have a desk there, is a height adjustable keyboard tray that you can add on.
Right.
But most of the times, if you already have a desk that's height adjustable, that's a lot more convenient than adding in a tray.
For sure. Why purchase an additional piece of equipment when
Exactly.
actually the cost of sit-stand workstations have come down dramatically in the past couple of years?
They're not much more expensive anymore than a regular desk.
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
And then you also have the benefit that people can sit and stand. So again, we're talking about sitting being a static posture. Your back is actually more flex as well, or your spine. So just being able to get out of that posture and alternate postures frequently throughout the day is a huge benefit. And it has shown that it decreases discomfort, as well as slightly increases the metabolism, which counteracts all the health, the negative health effects that we talked about.
Okay.
While sitting and standing in alternation is a lot better, you also don't want to be standing all day. At the end, anything that you do for prolonged periods of times is going to cause issues. So imagine walking for 8 hours a day, every day. You're also going to have issues with that.
Right.
What has happened recently, because we have computers, we have TV, we just are a lot more sedentary. So generally, we are sitting too much. So being able to stand up while working and reducing that sedentary time is super beneficial. At the same time, if you have a sit-stand station, that doesn't excuse you from exercising. So you should still be physically active.
That's
and
right.
Get around and move as well.
Yeah, so too much static standing is not healthy either. And in fact, there's research to support that the same musculoskeletal injury risks from sitting are also in standing statically,
Exactly,
right?
yes.
So probably the best case scenario is to actually move. It's the movement is really where it's at, right? Where
It
the
is
health
very
benefits are.
important,
So it's
yes.
great to get away from the sitting, so sit for half an hour or so, and then be able to stand, but you still need to be able to step away from your desk and get some physical movement.
Exactly, yes.
And I just actually have another question on that. So would you suggest maybe 5 minutes or so every hour to be able to physically move away from your workstation? Because where I'm going with that is not just talking about the health effects of prolonged sitting or prolonged standing, but what about the health effects on your neck and shoulder and upper back muscles from the continuous typing and mousing, which you're probably doing both in sitting and standing. So you've probably, yes, you've taken a break from sitting and you've stood at your sit-stand station, but your arm muscles and your neck and shoulder muscles have not turned off for a full hour. Is that too long? Should we be standing away from our workstation to physically give those parts of the body a break too at about an hour, or is that a reasonable amount of time?
That is a very hard question. I don't think research-wise we're quite there yet.
Yeah.
But generally, from my experience, if you're starting to develop discomfort, you do want to break up that stationary time at the desk before you're developing the discomfort. And most of the times, if you're moving away from the desk at least once an hour, it could be 5 minutes, could be a couple minutes. Main thing is getting away and moving. It's very beneficial for people. And a lot of times, if you have an injury or a lot of discomfort or pain, you also go to see a chiropractor, physiotherapist, or massage therapist, or even a doctor. And a lot of times they give you exercises or stretches that help relieve the discomfort. Those would also be great things to integrate into your workday. So if you're getting up once an hour, you're walking for maybe a couple minutes, and then if you add in one stretch or exercise before you sit down, that can also reduce the discomfort and kind of reset the clock a little bit.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, well, we're going to turn our attention now to the chair, because we get lots of questions about chairs. You know, they can be quite expensive. There's a wide range of prices in chairs out there, and some of the questions I guess we commonly get is, well, does the chair need to have all the bells and whistles? Are there more important features that we need to be looking for when we're purchasing a chair, when we have to make a large investment and purchase for many people? So what would be your recommendations around that?
So if you're getting a chair for your office to fit as many people as possible, you want to make sure that the height is adjustable, as well as the armrests, and that you have a lumbar support in the back of the chair, so that people are encouraged to sit back and actually use the backrest, which again prevents them from leaning forward and eventually slouching, which creates that flexed posture, which is really bad for our back and neck.
Okay. So chair height adjustment, lumbar support, and armrest support would probably be the key components.
And making sure that the armrests can be adjusted as well.
Right. So the armrests are adjusted properly when essentially your elbows are at your body sides, correct? And then your forearms just sort of settle nicely onto the armrest pad.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So if we are a small person now, small, petite people have a lot of challenge trying to find chairs locally here because the armrest can't come in close enough. What would you recommend for someone who currently don't have the proper arm support? How might they be able to get a little more relief at their workstation?
So if you have a chair that already has armrests and a new chair might not necessarily be in your budget right now, or you just can't find a suitable chair, there's a way to modify your armrests by wrapping them and maybe pushing them out a little bit. If you're a smaller person and it's not possible at all, you can also use the desk because it is better to have everything enclosed. So I always said a bunch of times, we want to make sure your keyboard is enclosed so that you can actually sit back, use the backrest, and kind of relax while you're typing. If the armrests are in the way and prevent you from getting in close enough, they really aren't beneficial. So in that case, it might be better to rest on the desk a little bit. Now, that of course depends on your proportions. If you have very short arms, that might not be suitable for you either.
Right. Such an individual thing, isn't it?
It is,
Office
yeah.
ergonomics,
At the end, you want to have your upper arm hanging down and then resting comfortably so that your shoulders feel comfortable. And then your entire forearm should rest on the armrests and or the desk, so that the armrests are pretty much an extension of the desk.
Okay. And do you have a list of specific non-negotiables when it comes to setting up a computer workstation? So, for example, is there certain accessories that would be a better bang for the buck that someone should prioritize who might be on a fixed or tight budget?
So you can get keyboards or mice for very cheap these days. So you can even get them for $4 or $5 at the dollar store. So those are really items that you should invest in. Of course, if you're willing to pay more, there are mice and keyboards that keep you in a more natural position, but just having a basic version is definitely a must-have. Then similarly, having your monitor at eye level is very important. So the top of your monitor should be about eye height. Another way to think about it, if you're sitting back comfortably in your chair, again, you should be using the backrest. If you're closing your eyes, you tend to sit comfortable. Then when you open them, your eyes should fall somewhere within the middle of the screen, as that is your natural way to sit, and that way you can keep that natural posture. Then, of course, having a comfortable chair is very important too. Again, it doesn't have to be an expensive chair if you can modify it properly. It has to be comfortable for you. If you have any issues with the armrests, again, you can wrap them. If you need to add some extra support to your chair, you could also put a towel behind your back to add in a little bit of support there. And then at the end, the habits of getting in close to the desk to prevent slouching and getting up frequently are also kind of must-haves.
Yeah.
And
And
the best
cost
thing
nothing.
is they're free.
They are free. They cost nothing at all. Great. I wanted to add one, and that's footrest. The importance of having your feet fully supported to help reduce low back
Yes.
pain. And footrests can be very cost effective. In fact, you don't even need to purchase one. I've seen lots of makeshift footrests in workplaces just made out of boards.
Exactly, yes.
Or in your home, it can be maybe shoe boxes or some kind of a stool that you purchase at a dollar store, again, like you said. It can be board games. Like maybe you have
that's
some kind
a
of a
very good
crate at
idea.
home that you can use
Yeah.
for a footrest. So we don't even need to pay anything for that. But
Yeah.
proper support for your feet is important, isn't it?
So yeah, you said one very important thing, your feet should always be supported by the ground. If your feet are hanging and dangling, it adds a lot more pressure to your legs and kind of just gets you out of that natural posture. So if you have a desk at home that's higher than what you'd want it to be, adding in that footrest underneath your feet can lift you up to that appropriate height.
So I just want to say thank you so much for coming in today. I certainly have learned a lot as well, and I'm sure that our listeners have too, and hopefully this information will be of great value for anybody, because essentially almost everybody today are using computers. So everyone can benefit. And again, I just want to say thank you, and until next time, have a healthy and safe day.
Thank you for joining us today. Transcripts are available to use in your workplace to increase workers' knowledge in various occupational health and safety topics. Visit workplacenl.ca for more information on the services we provide to workplaces. Feel free to share the signal on social media to improve workplace health and safety everywhere. Thank you, and have a safe and healthy day.